what's going on, guys? Sean or Mustang09, and today we're working on the wife's 4Runner. We're gonna give this thing a transformation with a lift kit from Toytec and new wheels and tires. You guys have seen the new wheels and tires in a previous video we did, and I think that was like 6 months ago. We got those when we first got the truck, and they didn't fit. So there's some trimming involved, but I didn't want to cut some stuff up if I didn't have to. So we'll put the lift kit on and see what we need to trim after that and go from there. But first, we have a special guest in the house. Joey is here. He flew all the way from Texas to help us install a lift kit. So
glad to be back.
Thank you for that.
Thank you for having me.
I'm waiting for him to move into the basement. I mean, I'll finish it out. He can move in, and we'll just create content. We'll just do that.
Let's do it.
I'm down. Over here we have the Toytec Aluma series. I think it's called the Boss Aluma series. It's 2.5, so they're thicker diameter around in the shocks. And then I don't recall what springs we have, but they're the softer of the two springs they sell for the kit. Just because we don't have the rooftop tent and stuff yet. We did get the Durabump bump stops. We have the front diff drop kit, and then we went with the SPC upper control arms. So that'll allow us to adjust the suspension the way we need to get the alignment perfectly straight. First we have the ridge graps, 285 70/17s, and they are wrapped around the 1552. I think these are the Turbo Max. They are sick though. They look really good on the car. When we test fit them, the colors were phenomenal. Got the wheels off, the rear of the car is jacked up in the air, so now it's time to start disassembly. We are doing bump stops, shocks, springs. So I think we're gonna start disconnecting the sway bar, then we'll go with the shock and the bump stops. And then we'll take the spring out. That'll be easy. Let's do this. So we got the sway bar dropped down. The one thing to note is the top bolt here, you're gonna need a 14 ratcheting wrench just because it's too tight in there to get an impact. So we just got it out. Now we're gonna work on getting shocks off. So in order to get this shock out, something to make it easier is we're gonna pry this little lip back just a little bit so that we can fit the box end of our ratcheting wrench in there and really be able to move it without having to take it on and off using the open end. We do have to use a smaller wrench though. It's a 5/16 to hold the top of the shock because it wants to spin like all shocks do. So we'll go ahead and pry this thing up. Ka-ding. I don't even know what I hit. It's still ringing.
The shock?
Ta-da!
You got it this time. Tell me you've never used a pry bar without telling me you've never used a pry bar.
Oh. Maybe the longer one. A little more leverage.
There we go.
That's it. Now that top bushing came out. I would say old and crusty, but it's only got 4,900 miles on it, so it's actually still decent. There we go. Ta-da!
Alright. I'm ready to come back up to get some thread showing. Alright.
Yeah, that thing is beefy.
Yeah, they are. I like the red anodizing and that gray color.
To keep the shock from spinning, we're going to try and put this wrench on the body of the shock here. It looks like there's a cutout for it, just because it's really hard to get that small wrench up there and hold it. It's just really tight up in there. This nut's bigger than the one previously. This whole, just everything's bigger now, a little bit beefier. So putting tape on it to hopefully protect it from getting scratched, because it just looks so good. We don't want to mess it up at all. All the anodizing and everything is top notch.
Wrong way.
Is it? I'm the worst. Man, that feels... There we go. We purchased the Durabump bump stops to go along with our lift kit. It just makes it for a smoother ride if you ever have to come in contact with your bump stops. Side guy. Well, by golly, boys, we did it. The rears are on, the tires are on. It's looking super good. I should have got a shot with just the suspension, but I think it came off over here, Joey.
Yeah.
Tools are out of the way.
Dropping it down.
Holy smokes.
Told you it's gonna be tall.
That's tall. That is.
You gotta give it time to settle. It's gonna settle.
It's got that, what do they call it? The Carolina lean?
Oh, you're going opposite.
Yeah.
You're forward.
Courtney, come look at the rears.
What? Those are up high.
Yeah, it's tall.
What do you think, Shirley? Wow!
It's big, isn't it?
Wow!
Now we gotta do the fronts.
That's super cool.
Mom's gonna have a big truck like Dad.
Are you excited? Thank you, guys.
Hey, Rex. Hi. We've already started on the fronts. I'm sorry, I did a bad job of filming the progress up until this point. But we disconnected the sway bar from the frame of the car, the body of the car, and the control arm over here, or the suspension on the front. And before we did that, we took the skid plates off and the little plastic shroud that goes on the front. That stuff's very straightforward. Nothing to really show you there. It's like 8 bolts for the skid plates and 5 for the little plastic piece. But now we're gonna start taking off that front suspension right there, the shock, get that out of there. And it's 3 bolts up top and then 1 bolt down low. And then this upper control arm is gonna be a fun one because that bolt right there goes all the way across. And getting that out, I heard, is a pain. So we'll see how it goes.
You have that dead blow?
Joey's working on this side over here. You need the dead blow?
Yeah.
Sure. Haha. Dead blow.
I moved.
Hold on 1 second. You guys can see that bolt that's up there on the top. Will you point that, Joey? So that guy right there, in order to get it out, what we had to do is come over from the top of the hood and move this lower AC line right here off of its bracket, as well as this upper one, which this was just a screw, and then this lower one just pops into a rubber bracket. So we moved those out of the way, just like that, and it let that bolt slide all the way out so that we can get the stock upper control arm out and put the SPC one in. Now, Joey's got that bolt back in there. Something that I do as a YouTuber to make the videos when I'm not quite sure what I'm doing on a car is I'll do one side completely so I can learn it, and then I'll film the second side because I've already done it. I've got the experience and I can present that to you guys. You guys saw in a previous clip on how to get this bolt out. Other than that, we took the brake lines off with their brackets. There's one on the top, one on this bar, and then one on the frame rail. And that's really it. Pretty straightforward as far as suspension goes. On to the driver's side though. If there's any unique differences here, I'll be sure to show you. But this one's gonna be pretty much just us working. Not a whole lot of explanation going on. Just trying to get this thing done before it gets dark and too cold here. So we're gonna get after it. Here's a good comparison of the side-by-side from the Toytec, the 2.5-inch valve body there, to the factory, you know, floaty stuff. If you've ever ridden in a factory 4Runner, you know that the factory suspension just is super floaty. The car just, it's a weird feeling. So this stuff is gonna stiffen it up for sure. But another thing to point out, man, the salt on the roads here is insane. Definitely gonna have to make sure I take care of these really well, keep them clean and protected. So Oh, and here's the stock upper. Like, it looks like a solid piece, but then you turn it over and it's just like folded over metal. I guess it gets the job done, but SPC Performance is a little bit better than that. So I'm excited to get this stuff on Courtney's car. It's gonna look great. Do not scratch that, Joey. Come on, guy.
Alright, just barely push down, and we're in.
There we go. Dude, that looks so good, man.
That's clean.
I like it
I really
a lot.
like this color.
Yeah, that gray.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of like the reason why I went with the wheels is because the car's gray. I like the gray wheels that match. And, you know, I could go without the red. If it were black, I'd be fine with that. But I think red is like Toytec's signature.
It's a nice subtle touch.
It is.
It's an accent color.
Right. And I really think Toytec's like a top of the line brand, if from what I've seen online. So
They're no kings, though.
they're no kings. The King Blue is really nice, but red's a good color. So
Can't beat it.
yeah, I'm excited. Looking good. You know what else is looking good? Those mountains, man. Check that out. The lake's completely thawed out. It was frozen for like 2 weeks there, and we were like really excited to go ice fishing and all that.
Yeah, I only came up for the ice fish, man. What the hell?
Yeah, put Joey to work. He wanted to ice fish. But yeah, the mountains look great, man. Just check that out. View of the lake. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. The one thing I forgot is that the car actually has red stitching, like in the headrest and on the sides. So what's gonna work out really well is that red's gonna tie right in with the gray and the gray on the wheels. Dude, it's all coming together.
Bro, I can't wait for you to overland.
I'm gonna overland so hard, bro. I'm gonna overland. I'm gonna overland like 3 weekends a month, bro. Interrupting me like that. Joey thinks he's funny, bro. Because he drives around with a tent on his truck all day. Okay, guy.
Should have only slept in 3 times?
Hey, it was cold as hell when you slept in it, though. So props to you. Frozen in Taos. Check it out, guys. We have the front diffs drop in. It's a 1-inch drop. This will help with the angle of your CV axles. So that way they're not too steep and, you know, putting them in a bind in any sort of way. Very simple to do. Support the front diff with the jack. Loosen the 2 bolts, lower it down. Put the new bolts with the spacers in, and there's nuts on the top. Torque them down to 70 foot-pounds is what we did, and we're good to go. So now we have to do the same thing basically with the sway bar. So we've got to do a
Sway bar relocation.
it's like a sway bar relocation, so it basically moves them back towards the back of the car.
And down an inch.
And down. All right, so it makes them back towards the back of the car and down an inch, so that way they're more in the factory position than they would be since we lifted it. And we're using Loctite on these things too, by the way, guys. Loctite, torque wrench. So we're making sure we're doing it right. We had an anonymous bag. It wasn't labeled. Had 6 bolts, some spacers, some washers in it. It turns out that's for these radiator support brackets. That way, when you move your sway bar forward, I said backwards earlier, it actually goes forward. It doesn't come into contact with these radiator supports. So you got to put these 1-inch spacers in throughout. So that's what we're doing right now. First look, dropping this side down. The other side's still jacked up on a jack stand, but it's tall. Sick.
That's really tall.
Yep. It's got a little bit of camber because the other side's still jacked up and we haven't done the suspension alignment, but yeah, I can't wait to see the other side. Let's go do it. Yeah, I like it. I like it a lot. Do you like it?
Yeah.
It's
What do you
tall.
think, Charlie? Yeah, it's super tall. It's cool.
Mom's gonna have a big car now.
We're gonna have to hop in, climb in.
Yep. Pretty exciting. Off-road adventures to come. Before that gets covered up with the beautiful 1552, there is the Toytec Aluma Series, the Boss 2.5-inch valve body, SPC uppers. You can see the sway bar relocation. Looks good, man. Looks killer.
How we like it?
Feels real good. It's not near as floaty as before. There still seems to be a little bit of body roll to it, but it's not like before where the whole car seemed to just like get off camber. This is, I like it. It's taller too. I almost have to use the step when I get in now, and before I totally didn't have to, but this time you can tell.
Nice.